All right, so we have a couple of to-dos. The first to-do is we need to load a VAG file from the CD-ROM, right, from disk, which means that besides these functions, let's just add another function here, which is load VAG from disk. Actually, just load VAG sound, and then we pass the file name, and we should return also the length of that file, right? So let's just say u long pointer length, right? And let's just, what does this thing return? Let's just return the actual buffer array, so character pointer, right? So we're going to have to return a pointer of these characters, this buffer of characters, these bytes in memory, which is going to be the return of this load VAG sound. So we're going to return the whole buffer in memory to our caller. Right, so let's just implement this thing right here. Let's go to sound.c and let's implement this function. And you know what? Let's just cut to the chase and paste this thing right here. This is a function that returns a character pointer, so it is a pointer to this buffer of bytes in memory. So it's going to be this array of bytes in memory called load VAG sound. We pass a file name and a pointer to the length because we want to return this length. I have an I index, I have a buffer of bytes. These bytes come from a file read. Remember, we have the file read, I think here in utils.c. We have this function that knows how to go and read a file from the CD-ROM and return for us the buffer and the length. So this one right here, this file read goes, allocates how much we need, and returns this bytes vector, right? This array of bytes. And then we check if it is no, there was an error, and if not, we are going to return this byte. So that is what I want to do. I just want to return these bytes to the caller, which means that in my main.c, right here, load VAG file from disk, what I want to do is I want to create, let's just come here up, and I want to add a new object, which is going to be a character pointer called sound effects. Right, so it's going to be our first sound effect. This sound effects pointer is a character pointer, so it's going to be just a buffer of bytes in memory, which means that right here, I'm going to say that my sound effects is equals to load VAG sound, passing the file name and the length. So passing the file name, which is powerup.vag, semicolon 1. I think we decided that it was not inside the track, it was just a global file, common to all tracks. And we need to pass also the length, right? Because we need to receive the length of that file. Let me just declare right here, u long sound effects length, and then we pass this thing as the address of sound effects length, because that gets populated inside this function, right? We pass the pointer to this thing, which is the address of. Does that make sense? So yeah, load VAG sound, passing the file name and passing the address of the sound effects length that is going to return the length. Cool. So now what we need to do is, now that we have this sound effect loaded, this buffering memory loaded with the VAG data, we need to go and transfer this VAG data to the SPU and then play that in a channel. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to invoke something called transfer VAG. What was the name again? Transfer VAG to SPU, passing the file name, and actually it is not the file name. I think I made a mistake. It is the buffer, right? It is the actual data that I have to pass. So this thing right here, transfer VAG to SPU, is not a file name. It is the data. And then I pass the length, and maybe the integer voice channel. So we can pass what is the voice channel number that we want to play that thing, right? So I think this is it. I have a file name, a length, and a voice channel. So let's just change the prototype as well. Sound.h, it is the data, the length, and int voice channel. I think I made a mistake here. Data, right? So data, length, and voice channel. Cool. We need to learn how to transfer this thing to the VAG. Right, so now that we have this prototype correct, I think there is one thing that we forgot, which is the sound init. Right, so we need to initialize everything into a known state, which is going to be actually not that difficult. Right here in main.c, besides passing the sound effects to play, the length, which is SFX length, and the audio channel, let's just say that we want to pass to the first audio channel, right? So we do have a constant called SPU underscored 0ch. So this thing right here is the constant that gives us the first channel 0, right? So this is it. I think this is done. All we have to do is transfer VAG to SPU, and then inside we're going to transfer everything and play that into the channel 0. We need to remember that we need to initialize everything. So the same way that we're initializing the screen, the CD subsystem, the joypad, we need to initialize sound init, right? And sound init, what does that entail? All we have to do is, our SciQ already comes with something called SPU init, right? So this is a SciQ SPU function that goes and initializes the SPU for us. And right here, we need to do a couple of things. The first to do is we need to allocate the sound memory that we need for that SFX. And then also, we need to configure some special SPU things. For example, master volume left and right, CD volume left and right, the mix configuration. So we have several common settings of the SPU, right? So we have to go and configure a couple of things. I am going to save everyone's time, and I'm going to already provide the code that configures all these things, master volume left or right, ADSR envelope, all these things. I'm going to already provide all this configuration, all these constants, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's just look at the code that does that. So right here, we have these lines of code. We have something called SPU init malloc that we're going to allocate some defined maximum that we have, and I'm going to already come here and declare these constants and variables. Here they are. So I am defining a sound malloc maximum of 10 for now. I have several static variables that are going to basically be static and persist for this file. So we have something called SPU common attributes, which is a struct that holds attributes for the configuration of the SPU, right? These generic common configurations of the SPU. We have another struct which is going to hold attributes for voice configuration, right? So all these parameters for the voices that we're going to use. So we have something called SPU common attributes, SPU voice attributes, and we're going to populate them right here. I have something called VAG SPU address, which is going to hold the address of that VAG, right? It is a ulong pointer, and I have also a static character, which is basically going to be this SPU malloc record, right? So we're going to have this array of data, which is going to be record size of the SPU times the malloc max, so how many we have for this one, so 10 plus 1. So this thing right here is basically going to be a static array that is going to have that data, right? The records of the data inside for us to send to the SPU. So now that we have all these data structures and all these structs holding common attributes and voice attributes, it is just a matter of coming here and invoking SPU init malloc, passing how many, what are the maximum allocations that we're going to have, and also what is the SPU malloc record array that we're going to initialize. So this thing right here is just a SciQ function call to go and allocate the necessary size for that sound. And then here is where we set common attributes, things like master volume left and right, CD volume left and right, and etc. So I am going to already provide everything. So SPU common attributes dot mask. So these are all the constants that we want to enable for our configuration. Common master volume left and right, SPU common CD volume left and right, common CD mix. So all those things right here is what I want to enable, right? The mask that I'm trying to configure right now. And then for each one of them, I have in my struct common attributes dot m volume, right? So master volume dot left, I set this value right here, and the master volume left, it is a value between 0 and 3FFF. So I'm just setting the maximum value right here for the left, and for the right, the same thing, right? So this is the master volume, left and right. I have something called SPU common attributes CD volume left and right, which the maximum is 7FFF. So CD volume left and CD volume right should be a value between 0 and 7FFF. And then I have this CD mix, which is basically just enabling the CD input on. If we are going to use CD, then we can enable this thing right here. To be completely honest, what we really need right now, we don't really need to do anything with the CD volume or CD mix. What we really need in our case is just, right now, the master volume left and right for the voices, right? And all I have to do is to actually commit these changes and these parameters. I have to say SPU set common attributes, and I pass the address of my struct that I just populated with the values that I want. That's it, right? So this is how we initialize. Now that we have everything initialized, I have to go to my main.c. I ask to initialize, I cannot forget, so this is taking care of this initialization, parameters, common attributes, and stuff like that. And then right here, I am loading my VAG sound from this file system name with this length, and then I'm transferring VAG to SPU, passing all these things. Let's take care now of this transfer VAG to SPU. How do we go and transfer some data with this length of data to one of the channels of the SPU? Well, let's just save some time and do that as well. So how do we transfer VAG to SPU? Well, here we go. Lots of things, but basically it's just setting configuration, setting addresses, and things like that. It's nothing really complicated. We're going to use all these SciQ functions that SPU set transfer mode, so we are saying that the transfer mode is via DMA, right? So we can be either done by IO or DMA. We're setting it to be done by DMA. We have, remember the VAG SPU address that we declared up here? So this SPU address is going to be the return of the SPU malloc of the length. So we're going to actually allocate that much size in the SPU memory for the first sound that we want to play. And then we ask to SPU set transfer start address. We pass the address that we also declared up there, right? VAG SPU address. So we set transfer starting address to the allocated area that we want, which is this one. And then we set SPU right. We pass the data pointer that we are sending and the length. So this is what actually goes and performs the actual transfer of that sound to the SPU memory. And then SPU is transfer completed, right? So we have this function that goes and waits until things are completed. We have this SPU transfer wait because we want to wait until everything is completed in our case, right? We don't want to go and continue without these things being transferred. So that is what we want, just go and wait. And once we are done, then we set SPU voice attributes. Remember that struct that has the SPU voice attributes? The mask that I'm going to use is voice volume right, pitch, WDSA, ADSR, attack mode, sustain mode, release mode, attack, decay, sustain, release. So all these configurations, this is the mask that I want to use for my attributes of the voice. And then how do we actually set these parameters? Well, here you go. I'm setting each one of these parameters with the correct values that we want to send to the voice attribute. So voice attributes is this voice channel number. Remember that we are passing what is the voice channel number that we want to use for the sound. So we ask the voice, we initialize this voice number with this channel. Volume left, again, the maximum is 1 FFF. Volume right, 1 FFF. The pitch, I am just setting to 100, right? So just normal pitch, no changes. The address of that voice is the VAG SPU address that we just loaded right here. We allocate it and we send the data to that address. So we initialize the pointer start. And then I have attack mode. I can just initialize with a constant, right? Linear attack mode, I don't want anything different. Attack mode, sustain curve, release curve. attack rate, decay rate, sustain rate, release rate, sustain level, all of these things I'm just not changing anything. I don't want to change, just leave me the default 00000. All right, and at the end, the last thing I do is SPU set voice attributes, and I pass the address of my struct that I just populated here above. That's it, right? This is what sets the SPU voice attributes for us to send to that channel that we want to play. So all that is left for us to do is to actually go and play that channel, right, on the SPU. Since we have everything loaded, that channel is mapped to the sample that we just sent to the SPU. All we have to say is, look, SPU, play this channel. And that is done by. I will have two functions. Actually, let me just add them right here at the end. I'll have two functions. One is called audio play, and the other one is audio free. And I pass the voice channel that I want to play, and that just sets SPU set key, SPU on, what is the voice channel that I want to start emitting the sound. That's it. So I just have to set audio play, passing the voice channel. And I have another one called audio free, which I can pass the unsigned long address that I can just go and set to SPU free if I want to free that allocated value somewhere in my code, right, in the future. But do you see? Audio play, passing the voice channel. All I have to do right here to play my sound is say audio play passing the channel. What is the channel? SPU 0ch. Oops, underscore ch. That should be it. Let's see how that works. So let's go. Build ISO. Did I make any mistakes? Definitely, right? Of course I did. So null undeclared, well, I have to include stdlib in sound.c. stdlib.h. Anything else? Scimake. Looks like that's it. Build ISO. So do you see? We have an VAG file that we just converted from a WAV file, right? Look, you don't need to use the VAG edit software that I just used, right? So this one, which is this kind of 32-bit version right here in bin, you don't need to use this VAG edit in this day and age. There are better sound converters out there, right? Even online, you can find these online converter things that convert MP3 to VAG or WAV to VAG. This one is just the one that came with the SciQ library, so we can come here and just use this one. But you're free to do whatever you want, right? If you are using a modern machine, you have other options of converting sound data to VAG format. But in our case, now that we have everything converted, if we open our emulator, and let me just debug messages, and let me just load WIPO game.iso. This means, did you hear that? I heard it, right? So yeah, it seems to be working, right? We have loaded a sound effect that is super easy, right? It's just a matter of configuring everything, allocating all those data in memory for the SPU, and also, right, setting all those configurations, pitch, attack, decay, sustain, release. We haven't done much, but it's basically just setting the master volume, setting the CD volume. I don't think we are using anything from the CD right now. Everything is basically just voice, right? So all this, the mask of the configuration and also the values of the parameters that we want. And at the end, we just say, look, I want to set the key, play the voice channel that I want right now. And we are using pretty much just one channel, right? So we are using channel 0 right now. But if you have a different VAG sound, you can play at the same time. You can have an audio play SPU 1ch, right, or 2ch. So you have all these different channels that they should be able to play sounds at the same time. Play these voices, right, these samples that you loaded at the same time. Super cool. So let me just see this again. Just confirm that this is actually working. Yeah, there we go. So that is my power up. I am happy with that. Look, you can go crazy, right? Loading samples and loading audio is something that, you know, as you cross, let's say, as you complete one lap, you should be able to hear the crowd. I remember that the original Wipeout, you have an engine sound that you can actually set on loop. You have, as you pass the crowd, you have this kind of chanting, right? This crowd chanting sound effects that can also play on loop. So yeah, you have different options, but I don't want to waste too much time with this. I just want to show that we have channels, we have VAG sounds, so all these things, they should work together. Super easy, right? Via code. We're not reinventing the wheel or creating a new format. Everything is already there. ADPCM, it is what the VAG files use, and that is what we are actually loading here to send, right? Sending this data to the SPU using the memory as a buffer, sending things via DMA, and then we just set the channel that we want to play that sound effect, and that's it. We just say, look, I wanted to play the voice that is in this channel 0, and we are done.